Years later, when Parasara was a grown man, another disciple came and asked him a question. He said, my dear Guru, please tell me, what are the qualities required to realize who we truly are? And Parasara was so humble. He said, actually, it takes a self-realized person to comprehensively answer that question. I'm not qualified to do so. But I'll tell you who is. There is a great sage named Ananda, and he lives on the top of the mountain of Tirupati. Go there and ask him this question. He has the saintliness and the wisdom to answer it. Now, in those days, there were no cars or trains or planes. There wasn't even bicycles. He walked 400 miles between Srirangam and Tirupati. And in that 400 miles, he had to cross wide rivers, traverse through dangerous jungles with cobras and vipers and tigers and leopards and wild elephants and wild boars and lots of mosquitoes. There were no hotels or motels on the way. If there were, I'm sure they would have Bhagavad Gitas in their room. But he had to sleep under trees and sleep in caves. And then he had to climb 7 huge mountains. And finally he came to the top of the hill and met Ananda, also known as Anandacharya. He said Ananda gave him some prasad, some sanctified food, and gave him a simple place to live. And the next day, the disciple asked, "O sage Ananda, please tell me, what are the qualities we should cultivate to actually understand who we are?" Ananda looked at him and said, "Let me think about it. I'll answer you another time." So he was expecting the answer later that day. The day passed. The next day passed. Weeks, months. He was there for 6 months. And during the whole time he was doing his spiritual practices, and he was doing different services for this little jungle ashram where Ananda lived, and he was going to some of the classes that were being given. But Ananda never addressed his question. He just waited. After 6 months, there was a big festival being held, and thousands of people came to the hill, and there was a feast. And this disciple, he was serving the feast. He served hundreds and hundreds of people, and afterward, he sat down to eat himself. And for the first time in 6 months, Ananda actually came up to him directly, personally. And he said, there's another group of people coming. Please serve them first, then eat after. So the person put down his plate and served hundreds more people. And he sat down to eat. Ananda walked up to him and said, "More people are coming, serve them first, please." He served them. The 3rd batch, the 4th batch, the 5th batch. Finally, it was late at night and everyone was gone. And he was sitting alone in the field with his plate of food. And he sat down to eat it. Then Ananda came up to him again, but there was no one else there to serve. Ananda said, "If I remember right, you had a question for me." what is your question? Oh, he jumped up. He was really excited. He said, please tell me, what are the qualities that I should cultivate to understand the true self, to understand our relationship with Krishna, with Vishnu? Ananta looked at him. He said, one should be like salt, like a chicken, like a crane, and like you. That's all I have to say about your question. He walked away. The man was really confused. He waited 6 months for that. It didn't make any sense. He offered his pranams, he bowed down to Ananta, he packed his little bag, and he walked down the 7 hills and across the dangerous forests and the wide rivers. 400 miles later, he returned to his home in Sri Lanka. And when he came, he was walking through the streets, and there was Parasara, his guru. He was really tired. He walked a long way. And Parasara said, oh, you came back. Only 6 months later. He said, did you get your answer? He said, yes. Parasara said, well, what did he say? He said that a true devotee is like salt, like a chicken, like a crane, like me. Parasara started clapping. He said, what a wonderful answer. So precise and comprehensive. Perfect answer. The disciple, he looked at his guru and said, I'm confused. I don't understand. What does salt and chickens have to do with anything? Parasara said, let me explain to you the fathomless wisdom of Anantacharya. What are the qualities of salt? If you put the right amount of salt in a preparation, it gives it great flavor. If you put too little, it doesn't have proper flavor. If you put too much, it spoils it. Salt must be balanced. And similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, it teaches, those who are on the path of true dharma are those who do not eat too little or too much, who do not sleep too little or too much, who are balanced in their occupation, their recreation, their spiritual practices, their relationships and times with their family. Everything should be balanced very carefully. And then we actually bring out the real flavor of life. We should not go to extremes, which is so much the tendency to just become obsessed with extremes. Balance is a great secret for growth. Another quality of salt is it gives flavor, but it doesn't expect recognition. It's like if you eat a nice vegetable preparation, you may say, this is very, very tasteful vegetables and very excellent spices. But for those of you who are cooks, how many of you have ever been given a compliment? The salt in this preparation is fantastic. gives so much flavor to everything else. All the spices, the vegetables, the grains, but nobody ever recognizes the salt. In the same way, a true devotee is very eager to help others in every way, to serve God in every way, to accomplish things in beautiful ways for others' benefit, but does not expect or demand credit for oneself. One's happy just with the opportunity, with the privilege to serve. Another quality of salt. Do you ever think of salt this way? Is salt merges itself into the preparation. It actually loses its identity in a certain sense to merge into the food. And in a similar way, a true devotee becomes absorbed. It's not that we lose our identity, but we lose our ego. The ego that separates us from other people, that separates us from God, that separates us from nature. And when we engage in our spiritual practices or our seva or our occupation for that higher purpose, we become absorbed. We become one in our spirit of love and harmony for the pleasure of the Lord. The disciple asked Parasara, well, what about chickens? How are self-realized souls like chickens? Now, usually in this world, chickens are not praised so much. If you do something wonderful, does anybody say, oh, you are a chicken? They say you're strong like a lion, or you're fearless like a tiger, or you dance beautiful like a peacock, or you sing like a nightingale. But if somebody calls you a chicken, it's usually an insult. How are great personalities like chickens? Parasara said, oh, chicken. Let me tell you about the chicken. This is the best part. He said, if there is a pile of trash, usually trash is all kinds of decomposed stuff and things that are useless and nobody wants, and the chicken will go to that trash and find, even if there's one or two nutritious seeds. Similarly, one who is aspiring to know the self must become saragrahi. In Sanskrit, saragrahi means one who seeks the essence. One who sees the good qualities in others and doesn't really concern themselves with all the bad qualities. One who actually learns how to appreciate. One who sees beyond all the coverings of egoism and mental speculations and activities that people may perform. Within it all is the Atma. There's a soul, and that soul is a part of God. And to be aware of that, to seek the essence. When my Guru Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he came from Vrindavan, the holiest of all holy places in India for those on the path of bhakti. And he lived in the heart of Vrindavan, Seva Kunj, where the Ras Lila, the epitome, the summum bonum of all spiritual realizations, is revealed. And he came to the West on a cargo ship, 38 days. He only had $8, but he couldn't change the rupees. And he lived not far from here in Haight-Ashbury. First he was in the Lower East Side of New York, and then a couple months later he came and lived in Haight-Ashbury. And at that time, in 1968, it was really, for him, unbelievable. It was the height of the hippie movement, the counterculture. Somebody asked Prabhupada at that time, "Can you show me magic?" And they were wanting Prabhupada to make some ashes, or produce some gold, or read minds, or do some magic like that, because they thought that's what yogis are supposed to do. And Prabhupada said, "My magic is that I have made hippies into happies." Transform these people. How did he do that? Even though some of these people were so depressed, some were addicted to drugs and alcohol, some really had no direction in life, he saw whatever little spark of good was in them. And he focused on that spark and fanned that spark, and knew that if he just nourished that spark, it would become a fire, and all the layers and layers and layers of bad qualities would naturally be dissolved. Like here in the Bay Area, you have fog, but the sun evaporates the fog. So that sun, Prabhupada saw, was in everyone. And that was actually the quality that gave all these people the chance to transform, is someone saw their potential and focused on it and appreciated it, rather than just beating them down because of their faults. This is the quality that the chicken teaches us. To see that nourishing seed, even if it's in a pile of rubbish. And similarly, when it comes to religion, Savai punksam paro dharamo yatho bhaktir hokshaje hoitakya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. The Srimad Bhagavatam tells that the supreme dharma means occupation, dharma means spiritual path, or religion. The supreme dharma, the essence of dharma, is that which awakens loving devotion and service from within the heart. That is the nature of the soul. Such loving service must be unmotivated by egoism or selfishness and uninterrupted by any circumstance to actually satisfy the self. But so often in this world, and we see it all the time, in the name of religion, people focus so much on the external forms and rituals without understanding that the purpose of them is to bring us to the essence. And therefore, in the name of a path that is meant to breed or cultivate love, people hate. Not only do they hate, but they learn to hate to absolute dimensions. Spirituality is the greatest power on earth because it connects us to the highest source. And it also can awaken people's faith. When there are proper spiritual guides, it creates unity, harmony, love, compassion, and humility. When those same conceptions are taught without understanding the essence, They can create arrogance, judgmentalism, hate, terrorism. We could learn from the chicken in our own spiritual path how to seek the essence and how to see it. And when we understand the essence, then all the rituals and all of the various practices become extremely beautiful and helpful. Another quality of a chicken, do you ever think of chickens this way? Is it seeks the essence in situations. Every situation is an opportunity to grow or an opportunity to dwindle. We can complain about our situation. We could blame others for our situation. We could blame God for our situation. We could be depressed over our situation. We could be angry and envious about our situation. Or we could see it as an opportunity to humble ourselves, an opportunity to persevere with faith in a higher power. Every situation, whatever it may be, and there are so many incredible stories, contemporary world and history, about people who were in situations that could justify suicide, depression, or total failure. And they soared to heights beyond human comprehension of prosperity internally and externally because they saw a positive opportunity in that situation. That is the lesson of a chicken. Not to just complain and blame, but to see what I could do.